with man-to-man coverage. 4th and 3, game on the line. Williams lofting one for a doozy. He caught it! He caught it!
Kamara in at tailback. He's got 5 rushing touchdowns. And now 6. Tied for the most all time.
You're listening to the world's #1 football podcast. Now with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen, Matt Hartman, and Ryan Matthews.
One more week. One more week till the draft. It's exciting. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good. Exact reason you're talking about. Excited for the draft to get here, but excited to do a 2-round mock today and talk about our guys, man.
Yes. No. It's exciting. Lots of news to be had. My guys, like you said, and then of our first and final 2-round mock. So a lot of fun news to uncover and kind of talk about and get into. That being said, we'll jump into the news category. And very important to me here that we start with this first bullet point. This past weekend, found out the tragic news that LSU's wide receiver Kyron Lacy has passed away. Not going to dig or speculate on anything. If you want to figure that out, go ahead and do your own research. That being said, very important to me and to all of our listeners, if you guys are struggling, if you guys are going through a hard time, please reach out. Please talk to people. I promise someone wants to talk to you. Someone wants to help you. If you're someone that's doing well, don't be scared to shoot someone a text that you haven't talked to in a long time. Don't be scared to let your friends, your family, whoever know that you love them and that you value them, and just cherish every moment that we got. Right. And it's just important that we let the people we know love them and that we create our own support system. So our thoughts and prayers do go out to Kyron Lacy and his family. Switching a little gears here into something that's less serious now when you talk in the grand point of schemes of all that. More college news though. Tennessee's quarterback, Nico, has caused himself a whole lot of trouble, or I should say former Tennessee quarterback, has caused himself a whole lot of trouble. He had held out practices last Friday because he wanted to get more money. And then over the course on, I think it was Saturday, he got let go. Heupel came out, said we're going to move on from him. Nico got in transfer portal and more stuff came out that he wanted $4 million. And then you uncover the layer. I guess Dan Lanning, Oregon's coach, was the one who actually reached out to Josh Heupel, Tennessee's head coach, saying, hey, your guy's fishing around for higher NIL deals. So and to kind of wrap it up very short and sweet, Nico was making, I think it's $2.6 million in NIL this year, and he thought that he deserved more than that and that he deserved $4 million. And to be frank, I think Tennessee did the right thing and said, we will not pay you $4 million. That is not how that works. You can go ahead, you can hit the portal. That being said, today we found out that he committed and is signing with UCLA. Be very interested to see what the NIL and everything works out on that. But your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, it was a fascinating situation because you uncover even more details. Like, there was a possibility him and his support staff, which his support staff, like agency, is his dad and a family friend. So, like, truly the people in charge of a 20-year-old kid and the amount of money he can make, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. And so there was a report that he was going to sit out of the college football game or the playoff game because of the NIL disputes. Of course, he ends up playing. They get blown out. Ohio State wins the national championship, yada, yada. But just the timeline acceleration of this. A week ago at this time, Ben, we had no idea this was a possibility. All we knew was there was this potential holdout on the way. It's like, oh, he wants more money. Okay, most teams are kind of like in that, the business of paying more money for a star player. And next thing you know, he's not showing up to practice. He's demanding the money, I'm not playing in the spring game. And then next thing you know, Tennessee is saying, go, get out of here. We don't want this. We're not doing this. No matter how talented, no matter how gifted you are, we're not doing this game. And I don't know if it's gonna come out. I don't if it has been reported, but do you know if UCLA the money on that? Because there's no way it's $4 million, and I don't even know if it's worth the 2.5 that he was gonna make at Tennessee. So all around, it's a crazy fumble, and I don't want to sit here and try and take down the kid, because it feels like this is a lot of the support staff above him rather than himself, because there was a few days before he hits the portal, there's reports from Tennessee reporters I read that he is spending time with the offensive coordinator going over the playbook for the next season. So there was genuine, Nico's going to be here kind of vibes. This is going to work itself out, and inevitably it doesn't. And I just learned, I didn't know if you knew this, but the spring portal, so if guys hit the portal, like Nico, for instance, him hitting the portal in conference in the SEC, he could not commit to another SEC school. He would have to sit out. Yeah, I didn't know that, so that was fascinating, and then it changed a ton of landing spots for me. But just overall, this is for Tennessee's sake, they're helping the integrity of college football, because if they just sat out and paid him, it sets a precedent. It sets down the line, someone else is going to do this. Next season, I think we talked about this in January, they're trying to push to make one singular portal instead of having this, here's a winter portal for a month, here's a spring portal for a month, because they don't want to lose spring games. They're losing spring games. Texas is one of the most profitable spring games in the country. They're not having one this year. So overall, They want to simplify this more so than it is now, and they need to. I've said it. I don't know if you agree with me, but my belief is that I think when you commit as a high schooler, you are signing a 2-year contract, whether that is your freshman and sophomore season, no matter how good you are, whether that's a redshirt freshman year, whether that's, whatever, 2 seasons. When you are committed to a program, that is a 2-year contract. And then you could hit the portal. But minimum 2 years. Again, if you hit the portal, It is 2 years, because we can't keep having this bounce around, trying to find the highest number. Because, the 2023 class, Nico Iamaleava, Jackson Arnold, Dante Moore, the only player in that recruiting class that is a 5-star quarterback, the 2023 class, is Arch Manning, the number 1 player at Texas. And, I don't want to be the Mr. Texas guy and go, I'm so glad Arch is he's my quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Arch Manning is he is the most net worth of any player in college sports right now. That's why he hasn't left Texas, personally. So, yeah, it's fascinating, man. I feel like I've went too long on this, but this is very important that we didn't get this out of hand.
Yes.
Because if this really went a route, it could have led down some very iffy roads in the future.
Yes. And quickly to your spring game and spring portal stuff. I don't know if you've seen this, but Cal Berkeley had 5 of their running backs hit the portal. They have a singular running back, their freshman running back, that is now listed and active on their roster. It's absolutely ridiculous. No, but in terms of grand scheme of it all, as you said, I think Heupel in Tennessee, again, did this, and it really helped with that integrity, like you said, of the sport. Because if they caved in and said, well, he's our only good quarterback in this roster, we're going to have to pay him $4 million, then we were going to start seeing this out of hand. This isn't professional sports. You can't just sit out because you think you're worth more money. It's not how that works. Wait another year, then you can go ahead and try to do your luck in the draft and try to do that. But it's just not – it's ridiculous. And, again, it's getting out of hand. And the reported rumors is that he will be taking less money at UCLA than he will at Tennessee. So Tennessee, like I said, he was making somewhere in the ballpark of $2.5 million. It is confirmed that he's making less than $2.5 million. People project that it's around 1.6. So he actually actively lost money doing this stupid stunt. Congratulations.
I also want to comment, like, there was some, like, recent buzz that he left because the offense wasn't going to, like, help him translate to the NFL. When has there been a college quarterback in the last 5 years that truly, since the transfer portal started, cared about their development? I'm being honest. Like, I know that's a harsh way of framing it, but with the way guys bounce around, they are more so looking for money and playing time. And so for that framing to come out of, like, well, he doesn't believe Tennessee's going to maximize him as a player. Okay, yeah, right. You know, I don't believe that. So I just wanted to touch on that because I know that was a hot topic the last, few hours since he's committed to UCLA. Yeah. Because I don't know if you know this, Ben, but UCLA's play caller next season is a first-time play caller. So what are you talking about offense? So it's interesting.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, ridiculous, stupid. Last bit of college news here for you guys. Isaiah, college/NFL, the purgatory between. Isaiah Bond has turned himself in for an outstanding warrant. If you are interested in what that warrant is, you can go and find that. Not going to talk too much about that, about what the warrant is, but it's just where he was not at this time last year in terms of projection as a first round pick to now he fell down to, like early to mid round 3 to now this. Holy cow. He is trying to play himself into becoming undrafted at this point. It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this before we shift over to the focus NFL here?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's a warrant in Frisco, so this isn't like I researched into it because I just wanted to know as much, but it's in Frisco, so it's a Texas-related event, not like from his time at Alabama, things like that.
Yeah.
I think this is a guy getting ahead of it. I have no idea what to believe is true or not. I innocent until proven guilty for me right now. So again, him getting in front of it, I don't know if that's him trying to get in touch with the person and figure this stuff out, or he wants to save face before the NFL draft in 8 days, as we mentioned. But overall, it's a fascinating time. This happened with Texas football last year with T'Vondre Sweat. He had a DUI like 3 weeks before the draft last year. That didn't affect his stock. He was still a top 40 pick. But yeah,
it was way later than that because the DUI was during the combine.
Was it? I feel like something happened in April with him.
I thought maybe I'm getting car incidents mixed up with Jalen Carter, but I'm pretty sure the DUI was during the combine. I don't know. Nonetheless, what were you saying?
You mentioned Cal running backs. Jaden Knott committed to Oklahoma. Jim Nagy is putting me in a body bag with that signing. Jaden Knott's a very, very good player. I want that to be known. Yes. He had a rough 2024, had a very injury-riddled year, but him going to Oklahoma, again, this is this is college football. I don't want to sit here and because it's the rival of Texas, be like, well, you're tampering. So is Texas. I mean, so is everybody. Everybody with big money, everybody's making money in football is tampering. I'll just admit that now. So they get a really good player in Jaden Ott. Demon Clowney, the cousin of Jadeveon, committed to South Carolina after I think he was committed to somewhere in the winter. So let me fact check that. I know he came from, where was it?
He came from a smaller school.
Yeah, so his timeline, he was at Charlotte. He entered the transfer portal in the winter and committed to Louisville, and then entered the portal March, and then he signed with South Carolina about a week ago. So I thought that was fascinating. I wonder what happened between now and then with Jeff Brom over at Louisville that made him need to leave and go to South Carolina.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, and he spent, before Charlotte, he was at Ole Miss for 3 years. So
this is the sport.
I was gonna say this is modern college football here for a few moments.
It's rough. It's rough, man.
Yeah. A whole lot of transfer portal activity right now. That's for sure. So oh yeah, the last thing. Almost left this off. So in maybe one of the biggest power plays I have ever seen in my entire life, Deion retired Shedeur and Travis Hunter's jerseys. They're hanging up in the rafters now. Soon we'll be hanging up in the rafters there in Boulder, Colorado. I'm at a loss for words, and I know how Matt feels, and I'll let him get into it in a second. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is so dumb. They went 13-12 over their last 2 years. What have you done at your time in Colorado to deserve your jersey to be retired? Again, maybe you can make a case for Travis and you can say, well, he's done something within the sport that we have rarely ever seen, if ever seen, at the level he's done it. Fine. What has Shedeur done? Won you 13 games in the span of 2 years? Are you kidding me? And has been a diva and has looked bad and has made the program look bad at times too. Stop it. And it's a comparison that people see all over social media now. And I'm in agreement, so I'm going to recycle the take. Tim Tebow won 2 national titles in the Heisman. His jersey's not retired. What? Oh, Deion just likes to make money. I'll leave it at that. I'll take it over. The dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, my feelings are pretty simple. I think Colorado, the last, before Shedeur and Travis and Deion, for that matter, they were a dormant program. They were 1-11. I remember when the Deion hire happened, I was like, well, what could go wrong? He sucks, and you win one game, you're already winning one game. So it didn't matter. He turns out to be, it's a good hit, honestly, and Colorado was relevant the last 2 years, and those guys are a part of that in a way, especially Travis. And having the son, having Deion's kid as the quarterback is a storyline. No matter who drafts him, no matter what school he plays at, he was a storyline. And so I believe, because they're retiring it during their spring game on Saturday, I believe it's a way to make money off of Travis and Shedeur one more time for Colorado. Because, personally, I think that's all that matters. I think if you raise some money for, I don't know, NIL purposes, I think those two guys are the names to do it. And I think it gets people out one more time for, celebrate Shedeur and Travis and how they made us relevant, as we go back into probably the shadows of, where we are right now.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting.
I've said my piece.
Cordell Stewart, one of their more famous alumni, did not get his jersey retired with Colorado. So it's interesting when we talk jersey retirements because, yeah, how good of a player do you have to be? How impactful of a player do you have to be?
Better than 13 and 12. That's how you won. You won 9 games this year. You lost 4 of them. I don't want to hear it. I don't know. I could rant about it all day. We'll move on. We'll kind of speed through a couple of stuff. I know there's one for sure that you'll want to stop at, but stop me if you want to say anything here. Patrick Peterson is officially retiring a Cardinal, which goes back to kind of the stuff that we said last week. I thought he had already done that. Shocker, shocker. This is one of the ones that I know you'll want to stop and talk about. Derek Carr, shoulder injury. Maybe, or does this increase their likelihood now to take a quarterback? Did they know this the entire time? Derek Carr came, reports are, well, he doesn't want to be a Saint. Well, no, I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is interesting. So Derek Carr, of course, has a shoulder injury. Apparently, with people I've read, is that they knew about it. Like, they truly knew about this in March, and I get it. They restructured him because they needed to get A, under the cap, and B, they wanted to spend money. They wanted to re-sign Juwan Johnson. They wanted to re-sign Chase Young. They wanted to sign Justin Reed. Whether I agree or disagree with those decisions, they wanted to do those, and to make those possible, Derek Carr had to be restructured, period. The part that I'm interested in is the Derek Carr side of it. How real is this? Is this guy... I don't like doing this. I don't like questioning a man's character like this, but with Diana Rossini of The Athletic reporting this, it makes me believe that there is some belief around the league that believe this is a possibility, is that he's kind of overstretching it. Maybe surgery isn't a bit, maybe he's not knocked out for the entire 2025 season. He's doing this to force a trade. For that, I would feel disrespected as a fan if that's what came out, personally.
Yeah.
Because how many players that ask for trades can get them pretty much granted. So I don't know. If he was really in fear of them drafting a rookie quarterback, which I believe has been a thought the entire time, is they wanted to get a rookie with number 9. But I don't know, man. It's interesting. It was one of those weird, really whoa. This uncovers so many layers, and then people around the Saints had no idea that this was a real thing, and it was just fascinating to read about. Makes Shedeur Sanders a real possibility at 9. So it's interesting, man.
Yeah, my hope, and it's something we had talked about, is that this doesn't sway you either way. Right. If you're planning on taking a rookie quarterback, then go ahead and still take your rookie quarterback. Now, if you weren't planning on taking a rookie quarterback, then don't take a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
And say, Rattler, here's the keys. If you're good, you're good. If you're bad, we'll take RJ in 2 years, or Grant Nussmeier or something. So, yeah. I don't know. In other quarterback news, kind of zoom through this. Joe Flacco is back with the Browns. Back with the Seahawks. We saw a couple of nickels get some paydays this past weekend. Jalen Petrie, he is your kind of safety nickel. He got 3 years, $39 million, and then Kyler Gordon, he's more of your slot nickel. And he got 3 years, $40 million, making him the highest paid slot/nickel corner in the NFL. Good for him. We talked about this. He probably just looked at the Nate Hobbs contract and said, I think I'm better than that guy. I want just a bit more than him. And that's how we came on that money. And then the Bears made another signing. And this hurts because I love him. TJ Edwards signed a 2 years, $20 million. I'd have to imagine that he took a pay cut to stay there. I think he's worth more than 10 per. I think he's that good of a linebacker. And those are kind of our 3 big contracts that we've seen signed over the last week. Any thoughts on all 3 of them or one of them, or mix?
I mean, lumping the Petrie and Stingley and then lumping the TJ Edwards and Kyler Gordon together, this is what a rookie quarterback contract can do for you. If you believe the rookie quarterback is good on the contract, you can sign these veterans to pretty, quote, expensive contracts at the position. So, yeah, I mean, this is just standard business. Kyler Gordon is too good of a player to let go. You get it done early, and the same thing with TJ Edwards and Jalen Petrie.
Yeah, they're good at what they do, right? And you don't let these young guys walk. And then, like you said, that's why having a good rookie quarterback, a good rookie contract quarterback is the most beneficial thing in all of sports, because you're not stuck paying them $50 million. And then the last one is kind of your Dolphins monologue, if you want to go ahead and jump into that.
So this is what tipped me off to doing this. So it comes out that Jalen Ramsey is getting chopped around the league, and I don't know the wording, but I think there was like a likely they wanted to get capital for this draft was kind of the belief around it. So I was interested. I was like, all right, let's do some deep dive, because this team in the last 13 to 15 months might be one of the most volatile football teams I have seen in a recent minute. So starting at the top, I don't think I missed anything. So but they come off as 11-6. It's the best record for the Dolphins since 2008, and they were one of the most explosive offenses in football in 2023. Of course, they lose in the wild card to the Chiefs, the record cold game, whatever it was. They had 3 losses down the stretch, if we remember. They got killed by the Ravens. They lost the division on Sunday Night Football against the Bills, and then they lose to the wild card to the Chiefs. So they just end in a cataclysmic way. They then fire Vic Fangio, and I don't know if you remember this, but there was players on the team that were kind of like celebrating it. I think I want to say it was Holland who was like, "I'm taking out the trash."
It was Holland.
It was about Fangio, and Vic Fangio a year later, he's winning a Super Bowl. So it's interesting. They let 2 major homegrown free agents walk in Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt, but they gained 2 compensatory picks for those. So that is the value of letting someone like those 2 players go. I thought Wilkins was too good to let go because he did so much for that team in 2023. Of course, they don't have him. Their free agency last year, they spend mostly on cost-effective free agents. Vets, Jordan Poyer, Kendall Fuller, Shaq Barrett, who never played a snap for them, by the way. Then the draft happens, and they hit in the first round with Chop Robinson. Controversial pick when it happened. Ben? You good?
Whoa.
Your camera's having issues.
Yeah.
But, so they take Chop Robinson where they take him. They pass on a guy like Quinyon Mitchell, who becomes a transcendent player for the Eagles. They then trade a future third to the Eagles to get back into the 4th round for Jalen Wright, who is the exact same archetype as the guys in the room already. Mostert, he left this free agency, and Devon Achane. They then extend Waddle, which I think was one of their better moves. Still 3 years, $84 million, very, very expensive, $76 million guaranteed, so he's going to be on the books. They give Tyreek and Jalen Ramsey new guaranteed money in 2025, actively making it harder to do what they're trying to do right now, in which that is moving on from them, making a trade. They signed Tua at the last possible second at training camp for $53 million, and you put that into perspective, and you go, Justin Herbert's making 55, Joe Burrow's making 55, Dak is his own little tier making 60. I know he's not as good as those guys, but he had all the leverage. Tua had very minimal leverage in comparison to those players, and why was the reason they didn't want to sign him? Because he's injury prone, because he has his injury. And so then the season happens, week 2, the biggest Tua question is answered. He gets hurt in the Bills game, and he doesn't play for a month and a half, and they start 2-6 because of it, and they finish 8-9 on the outside of the playoffs. The offseason starts immediately, because I don't know if you remember this, but Tyreek Hill, right after the Jets game, is going to reporters, and he's talking about how he doesn't want to be there. So all of a sudden, it's just completely exploding. Javon Holland walks in free agency, another big-priced homegrown player, but this time, I talked about Wilkins and Hunt, they get the comp picks. This time, they don't get the comp picks. Why? Because they signed Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson cancels out the 4th-round comp pick that you would have gotten for Javon Holland. Another just hilarious misstep. So you're paying your quarterback $53 million, but because he is injured so much, you have to sacrifice your own 4th-round pick that you get from letting one of your big-time free agents walk in signing Zach Wilson, pretty much. Just very, very fascinating stuff. They made more, marginal free agency moves. I thought the James Daniels move was fine. Nick Westbrook-Akine, I said on this podcast, I really, really liked. Larry Borum, whatever. Teron Armstead now retires, leaving a glaring need at tackle. And now we get to current day. Hill, Ramsey, getting shopped currently. If they were to trade both of those players before the draft, before June 1st, let alone, it would cost them over $50 million in dead money. So Tyreek is at $28 million, Ramsey is at $25 million. They have 11 total picks. They have 3 difference-making drafts, which I call the top 3 rounds. I think those are the difference-making draft picks. But so there's a world where this turns around, but I'm at this point where I don't know how they still let Chris Greer run this thing, because at this point, I don't know what to do with this team. I think this is one of the most volatile football teams I have seen. Just overall, they have pushed themselves into, the Saints. I'm looking at a very volatile football team and pushing themselves into mediocrity every year. The Dolphins might be the Saints East right now with what they're doing. So it's just fascinating to see how their last 13 to 15 months have gone. I don't really have an explanation for it. I think it's just everybody in the room is trying to save their jobs. But if this team hits 6 wins next season, I hope, for Dolphins fans' sake, that Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel are not making decisions anymore for this team.
It is, as you had laid out, a year and a half, or close to a year and a half, maybe up there in 2 years, of just very bad decisions and bad decision making in terms of contracts. It's just, it's getting up there. And we had a fun discussion about which Chris was worse, Ballard or Greer. And when we're saying Chris Greer is worse than Chris Ballard, that's saying something. That's for sure. I just don't know where they go from here. There's just a lot of question marks. I'm interested if they do end up trading Ramsey, if they do end up trading Tyreek Hill. I think you're probably going to net more for Ramsey than what you would for Hill because of everything going off the field with him. Just going to be interesting. Dolphins fans, brace for another long, long year. That's all I got to say. So, but all right. Moving on to our next segment. This is a fun segment. It's kind of a conglomeration of all of our draft scouting and all of that stuff put together. And it is my guys. And I don't think we have to spend a whole lot of time, at least on mine, because mine are all guys that I've, at one point or another, outside of one, have mentioned as being a guy that I'm a big fan of through the different position scouting and everything. I'll start off with my number 1, and we can kind of flip back and forth. I got 8 for you guys. My number 1 was a guy, a linebacker. Did not expect to fall in love with him as much as I did. If you guys did not watch the linebacker episode, he's my 4th ranked linebacker in this class. That's Smile Munden Jr., the linebacker out of Georgia. For me, it is just his combination of size, speed, and length at the linebacker position that you don't often see. He really has the athleticism and the ability to go sideline to sideline. And I don't think there are a whole lot of linebackers, even in the NFL, that can say that they can do that. And this guy, I think at the bare minimum, can step in and be a sub-package linebacker who is just designated to just cover a tight end. and we'll see how it all plays out. But say like, hey, Travis Kelce's out there. You got it. You go cover Travis Kelce now. Again, there are concerns. The two big ones for me is the injury and then just kind of the run game and more specifically his block shedding ability. But again, I think he has the size and the athleticism to improve and get better at that. And given the right circumstance and the right coaching staff, I think he can turn into one of the guys that we look back upon on this draft and say, why didn't he go higher? He had all the athletic tools to do such. Why did we not take him higher? And that's why he found his way all the way at number 1 for me. But who's your number 1 my guy in this class?
I think my number 1 guy is Josh Simmons, the tackle out of Ohio State. I kind of based this on consensus, and right now in consensus board, he's 22nd. On my board, he is 8th. So I truly believe that if you don't believe that Will Campbell is a tackle, I think Josh Simmons is the best tackle in the draft. With the injuries, with the limited play time this season, torn patella tendon, if that scares you away, I completely get it. But the size, the power, the athlete, these tackles, he's also long enough to play tackle at a serviceable level. I don't think these guys stay on the draft. I think these are the guys that become superstars at the tackle position, and I think these are the guys that don't stay around in the draft for the 22nd pick on, the consensus board. So that's what I've been in love with Josh Simmons since the moment I saw him. Much like last year, I think we all kind of got it, but similar to my Joe Alt love last year, I think the minute I watched this guy, I was like, this guy looks a step ahead of everybody else. And I truly want to gamble on that player. And like I said, with the Saints at 9, I would, absolutely I would welcome that pick because I think this is, again, the prototype to be a super duper star at the tackle position. And you're telling me he's in the 20s of the players in this class? I can't agree with that.
That's I think it comes down to injuries, right? But I mean, in the grand scheme of things for him, he's out there. He had a private workout a couple months after tearing his ACL, which is absolutely
and he was moving
ridiculous.
like that.
Yes, it was great. It was great to see. Where do you have Membu then? I'm assuming you have him ranked in front of Membu at this point.
Oh, yeah. I have Membu as my 15th player.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, there's, 7 picks between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I get it. I think it comes down to injuries and how comfortable teams are to take him.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the second guy on my list, and I kind of have them just tiered off in no particular order outside of Smile Munden. A guy that you guys have heard me talk about, a guy that Matt probably is done hearing me talk about at this point. Tonka Hemingway, the penetrating 3-tech from South Carolina. I am in love with him for basically all the same reasons that I really like Smile. Is just the athlete. I think he's a very good athlete. I think he has very good length for his size. Active hands, and when he can't get there and create a pressure or convert a pressure into a sack, he gets his hands up. He blocks passes, and for him, it's not so much that like I think this dude is even a day 2 guy at this point. It really goes back to that consensus ranking and having him just far and away ahead of where everyone else has him. I would be comfortable taking this guy in the 4th round. There's not a whole lot of people that are there, if any. I'm kind of the conductor and leader of the Tonka Hemingway hype train. Again, could step in and he plays a very, very valuable position if he can do it at the level that I think he can. We just saw Milton Williams get paid a whole lot of money because he was a good pass rushing 3-tech. And I think there's a lot of translatable things from the athlete, from the size to what Milton did to what Tonka is doing now. And I wouldn't be shocked again in a couple of years to say, He's a very good penetrating 3-tech that can get after the passer. I loved him, and he stood out to me even when watching other guys on the South Carolina defense. So,
Yeah, so you went outside the top 100. I'll do the same. I'll go with the quarterback position. Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard has continued to be my guy. He's outside my top 100, and he's 158 on the consensus board. But this is a guy that, if I'm looking at this draft class of, like, after the first, like, 4, and this is including Jackson Dart. We've talked about Dart. But, you know, like Milrow, Shuck, and then the 2 top guys that are going to go in the first round, Ward and Shador. I think we're looking at a lot of backups. McCord, Ewers, Will Howard, and Riley Leonard to me is the one that stood out in the bunch. I think he has the functional athleticism to do it. I think he's a hot and cold thrower, but the hot throws are really, really high. And I think the last thing that was very underrated with him is I think he has functional pocket feel. He had functional pocket feel for most of the season, and I just think that Notre Dame didn't ask him to do a lot, and I think that's because they're Notre Dame and who they were playing. They were playing Army. They didn't really need to ask him to do a lot, especially because he had one really serviceable receiver in Jaden Greathouse, and Bo Collins, the transfer from Clemson, missed some games. So I think over time they just leaned into the rushing style because Jeremiah Love is a super-duper star, and they had a functional offensive line with Leonard, and Leonard's strength is his athleticism. So, again, it's can he not do it? Or is it he wasn't asked to do it? And I'm willing to gamble on that guy when, I'm comparing him to, like, Kyle McCord and Ewers in that same kind of range. And so, yeah, if you're a team in the 4th round looking for a backup with some, exciting traits, I think Leonard is absolutely the guy over everybody else in that range.
Yeah, I would love to see him, if they don't take a quarterback on the first 2 days, I would love to see the Browns take him. Because now it's Kenny Pickett. And I would love to see those 2 guys. It's not very good. Yeah, he's fun. It goes back to, obviously not to the same extent, because 2 completely different tiers of players in what they did. But it goes back to the Justin Herbert of it all, right? We saw the same thing within Justin Herbert because of the offense. Can he do it, or was it just because he wasn't asked to do it? And that's a lot of concerns that people had with Justin Herbert. Again, completely different tiers at completely different levels. But yeah, I like it. Kind of reeling it back in, kind of going a guy that I have been higher on again for a very long time. I think he was probably my first or second my guy. I'm going to say he was my second my guy, and we'll get to the other guy later on, is Donovan Ezraku. And I've had him at certain points over the last course of the season being taken as high as 15. And it's great now that people are coming around to it. Now that more people are getting into his film, and I think people are getting much closer to where I have him than where he was on the consensus board even 3 weeks ago now at this point. It was a fun conversation that we had. I think he's the second best pass rusher in this, second best true pass rusher in this entire class. Mm-hmm. That's how good I think this guy is. And he has very, very long arms for his size. He has 34-inch arms. He is a weirder build because he's a smaller guy with super long arms and kind of leans on being able to long arm guys. But I think he's a nuanced pass rusher and can stand up against the run better than what people are giving him credit for. I think he has natural bend, amazing hand usage, uses his smaller stature to understand the natural leverage that he gets. And he didn't come off the field. Like, he played like 90% of the snaps or something for BC. Again, he's undersized, and if that's our knock, I am totally fine with taking the undersized pass rusher that is great at what he does and can hold up on rundowns as well. And again, I think people are coming more around to where I see Ezraku. But your next guy.
Yeah, quickly on Ezraku, I am probably one of the more notorious lower people on him, just because the speed to power is a question. But if that guy, like, he is a double positive. You'll hear this with edge rushers and like interior linemen. Small but lengthy is a double positive in defensive, in pass rusher standards, because you get the natural leverage of being a smaller, shorter player, but you still have the length to long arm and be able to, maneuver around the edge. And so his bag we talk about of pass rush moves, it's one of the deepest in this draft. It's just if he gets a conversion of speed to power, I'm gonna regret having him where I have him right now. But my guy, I think this is my biggest discrepancy with the consensus board, and that's Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn, the running back. I have him 79th. The consensus board has him 183rd. I have a ton of running backs in this top 100 because I didn't really want to, skew with the positional value, but seems the consensus board that I'm looking at skews a lot towards positional value, but that's whatever. But Jarquez Hunter, I think he is a ready-built toy right out of the box that you can play with immediately. I think this is a guy walking into a football team is going to, like, I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to anyway. Like, you immediately compare it to Bucky Irving. How Bucky Irving walks in and immediately this guy's getting 8 touches and slowly works up the count, and then he's averaging like 25 at the end of the year in the playoffs. So I think Hunter is stout, squatty, built in the upper body, that it's just going to work. And I think a lot of, what he did at Auburn was a lot of gap and zone schemes. So he's multiple in that kind of field, and I think his vision in between the tackles is something that someone in this draft is going to get excited about.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that I ended up not even watching when it came time to watching running backs, and we did our video. And then basically immediately afterwards, I went back and watched him, and I was beating myself up for not have watching him sooner. Like you said, I think he's one of those guys that people aren't talking about enough. But
and it's just because
of all the
everybody
later
else,
round backs,
it's just because this running back draft is so loaded that he falls between the cracks. And I feel like that was my job with the running backs this year, to like find who's in between the gaps. And that's what I really wanted to try and find, because Gentie's good. Even Cam Scadaboo's good. But Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn was someone I wanted to find personally.
Yes. No. Again, of all the later round backs, especially where you like have people projected go, he is one of those guys that I would not be shocked if he comes out and does one day turn into a lead back, because he has everything you'd be looking for, right? So, and then I'm gonna finish out my tier 1. I'm gonna make this one really quickly. I'm gonna jump into one of these guys that me and you both have on this list, and I think it's fun. The last guy on my tier 1 is Kevin Winston. I'm gonna make it super quick because we talked about these guys literally last week. So if you guys have not seen our DB ranking videos or the podcast last week, you can go and find it. Again, went a little bit more in depth into him there. But very quickly, I think he has the range to be a true center fielder, and I think he is physical enough in the box and can absolutely just stick someone. The two concerns for me is that torn ACL that he's coming off of, and I think if he did not have that torn ACL, we would be having conversations with him as the top safety in this class, and then just tackling consistencies. But again, those are tackling consistency you can fix. He's putting in the effort. It's not that he doesn't have the desire. It's not that he's not trying. He just isn't the best at consistently making them. But I think, again, you get him next level, you get him into a program that can teach him how to do it, and you combine that with his range, with his physicality, he's going to be very, very good. But then the guy that I had mentioned, me and you had talked about him very briefly last night, because we dug into his little stats and all that stuff as well. And it was a little fun nerd out session that we had. Is Dante Thornton. Man, I love Dante Thornton. Again, he is just that perfect combination of big and fast. he was 6'4", ran a 4.3 at the combine, and he really uses those two together. I think he might lack a little bit of the lateral quickness, but when you combine a guy that runs 4.3 and consistently wins the contested catch the way he does, you really can have a problem on your hands in terms of defenses. I think this guy is going to step in and at least immediately find himself in a role to be a field stretcher. And then from there, you can put it together because he has the ability with his acceleration and his yak to become more than that. I think he's a good hand fighter, but it's lateral quickness coming from the Heupel offense, the route tree. He didn't really show a whole lot of that. And then usage. Their usage rate at wide receiver was questionable at times. But again, it's just a true combination of a guy that can win at the catch point and is very, very quick and fast. But your thoughts on Dante Thornton?
Yeah, Dante Thornton is the exact guy that I feel like any offense in the NFL is looking for. Explosion. I think this guy was, in his last year he was from Oregon, transferred to Tennessee. In his last year at Tennessee before this draft, averaged 3.72 yards per route run, which is exponential for guys coming out. That really shows that he is a vertical stretcher of the field. And I think any team in the draft should be looking for someone like Thornton. And, the thing about Thornton is I'm not sitting here going, he's going to be a number one. He's going to be a guy that I believe is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I'm not sitting here saying that. He's going to be Puka Nacua. No. I'm just saying that this guy has a value that not really anybody else around his draft range does. And that's being a consistent possible Z receiver in certain formations to be a vertical stretcher because of his speed and his strides. He is such a long player. And, you see 6'5", and you immediately think, oh, is he a physical receiver? He had 4 contested targets all season long. And, granted, he, rotated a lot with those guys there at Tennessee, but still, 4 contested targets for a 6'5" guy is rare. And so, yeah, I think this is an exact role that I'm willing to gamble on, and if I get right, is going to be a very profitable draft pick in the next few years, especially if he goes where he's going and, in the 170s. I compare this to, ironically enough, the same last name. I don't think there's any relation, but Tyquan Thornton, where he goes to the Patriots. I liked him as what he could be, and okay, he's a field stretcher out of, Baylor. If he goes in the 120s, 130s, okay, I like it. Next thing you know, he's in the top 60 with the Patriots, and I'm like, well, okay, you're asking him to do too much. Where Thornton, I think if he's drafted in that range, that is a place where I'm willing to draft him.
Yes, and the more I think about it, and there's a player that came to mind when watching him, Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Mm-hmm.
He has the same height. He has close to the same speed. It's the easy player comp to make for him, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can get Marquez Valdes-Scantling for 4th, 5th round pick, wherever this guy ends up going, I think it is a perfectly good use of a draft pick. And I think he's probably a little bit more physical than him as well. But I think that's the easy draft comparison that you can make. But who's the next guy on your list?
Let's see here. I want to see where he is on the consensus board. I think he's 93rd. Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. I think this is a guy that is just mean and nasty, man. We said it last week with the DBs. I think he's just mean and nasty. You stick him in the nickel, and he is going to be hard to get past. I think he's shifty in the way he moves his hips, everything like that. He has the athletic ability to keep up with anybody in the slot. He's undersized, and he's not as long as you would demand for a boundary corner, and that's why he's going to be a nickel at the next level. But we just saw Kyler Gordon, and we just saw, Jalen Petrie get paid out of that spot. But I think the thing about Parrish that I am drawn to is, man, he is built and he plays as feisty as some of those Washington Husky DBs that came out the last few years. And those are the guys that I continue to flock towards And I'm always just going to be higher than on consensus because it is my type of defensive back. The no fear, the go at you. I want my defensive backs to be the most arrogant players on the football team. And I can believe watching Jacob Parrish, he is the most arrogant player on the football team, the most arrogant player on the football field, and anything thrown towards him, he's going to make a play on it, and he's going to make you wrong, make the quarterback wrong. And so I have him at 61st. Consensus board has him at 93. I think this is definitely worthy of a top 70 pick. We'll see if he goes that high because of the length concerns, but he's enough of an athlete to make up for it at the nickel.
Yeah, and if it pays off, like you just said, it's going to pay off good. That's for sure. And at this point, you guys are probably sensing a little bit of a theme here within my guys. Someone, again, that I've made it evidently clear, and I went back and had watched him 2 days ago, Nicky Manwari. You saw that one coming from about a mile away. Again, he is a freak athlete, and we had talked about him last week. And I think I ragged on him a little bit too much, a little bit more than what I would have liked. So I'm like, let me go back and watch him again and see if I can convince myself to get back to where I was. And yeah, almost immediately I got hooked right back on the Nick Mari train, to no one's surprise. Again, when he is that freak athlete that you're looking for. And I don't think I gave him, at least personally, and again, we can disagree, and I think that's perfectly fine. Don't think I gave him enough credit with his zone IQ within the box. Again, when you start stepping that outside and you ask him to carry stuff down the field on the outside, it becomes a little bit more of a concern. But I do think that he is, again, that physical freak that has that fast trigger to get downhill and go and make tackles. But I do think he has good zone coverage when it comes to reading plays within the box. And I think I did not talk about that enough. And when you combine a guy that's as size as he is and, is as feisty as he can be and within his own ability, I think you are making a very good football player if he can piece that stuff together. And I think he has a prototypical build to be a tight end eraser with his size and speed. And if he can put it together, again, just like I said with Smile, you can say, go lock down George Kittle. Go cover Travis Kelce. Go cover Trey McBride, for example, because he has the combination of size and speed and physicality to do it all. And there's not many safeties outside of like a Kyle Hamilton, for example, that I trust to do that. And I'm not making the comparison to him as Kyle Hamilton, because Kyle Hamilton was definitely a better coverage safety than he was. But again, I think he has all the traits that you could really want out of a guy from that position. So, Nicky Manwari.
Yeah, I won't talk about him. This is my guy episode. I don't want to be negative, but just a quick skim through like my top 100 and just value guys. I have Colson Loveland as my 7th player over Tyler Warren. I bet that's probably a surprise to a lot of people, but the way he moves in space, it's hard to compare him to Brock Bowers. Like, again, doing that, Brock Bowers is the most efficient rookie tight end we have ever seen, but the way he moves in space, he moves like that. And if he's a, kind of a Bowers with the mentality in the run game that I believe he has as a blocker, and the technique was so sound, I think this is a plus player and should absolutely have a floor of Indianapolis at 14. I think this guy is bona fide top 15 pick. Walter Nolan is my 8th overall player. Again, just penetrating 3 techniques are so in high demand right now because of what the Eagles just did. But then you add in what the athlete Nolan is and the baseline run defense he's bringing to you. If he just figures out what he's doing with technique here and there, he has speed to power for days, man. Like, this guy is a tremendous athlete to fit any defensive scheme and just create havoc plays, create the TFLs, create the pressures, create the sacks. I think he is tremendous, and that's why he's a top 10 player. I would absolutely consider him at 9 with the Saints. I hope it happens. And then
one of those guys, in terms of Walter Nolan, and it's kind of the complete opposite as I am with Walker, not to dig down that rabbit hole. With what am I missing? What are me and you missing on Walter Nolan that we have him and we like him as much as we do compared to everything else and where people have him? Again, he won't make it to 32 and he shouldn't make it to 32, but that's where people have him going. And it makes absolutely no sense to me. What like, am I missing something? Is there some kind of character concern out there about him? Because again, I second everything that you said about him.
Yeah, and then my last one, we know about this one, Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel's an easy one. I think he's the best guard in the draft by far. You stick him inside. I think he's got the guard center flexibility. I think he makes you multiple in the run game with the way he's able to, be an athlete in space. It's very, and then like the only thing you need to do, and you could say this for any rookie offensive lineman, is put more mass in your upper body. Put more weight on up top, and you can really figure this out, because there have been North Dakota, State linemen that have come in with that kind of trend that, okay, we're an athlete, but we're kind of weak on the up top to figure it out. But I think Zabel's got the mean streak, enough of a mean streak in him to produce that way. So those were three guys that I just straight look at my big board in comparison to, the consensus, and I'm just like, well, yep, I'm absolutely higher on this player than you are.
Yes. So, and then the final two for me is Alec Ayumanor. Again, it just comes back to the combination of size and explosion for him. And then my guy, I remember watching him, God, it had to have been months ago now at this point, because it was still freezing cold outside. DJ Giddens. He's one of those guys that I think he does everything at least a sufficient level, but he does have the ability to be a pass catcher, has the speed that you're looking for, has a contact balance, the ability to get skinny, and the size at 6 feet that he has all of the package that you really want outside of a running back. And I think people are talking themselves into Tootin, talking themselves into Harvey, maybe a little bit too much. And DJ Giddens is slowly falling into the shadows of this running back class because it is so talented. But yes, that's my guys that we put out. If you guys have any my guys that you don't think people are talking about enough, go and drop in the comments. Let us know. We'll give you guys our opinions on them and all that stuff. So let us know who a couple of your my guys are, and hopefully we can get back to you guys before the draft and all that.
Yeah, I have one more I want to hit.
Yes.
This is not a player. This is just a position group. Any Oregon front seven players? Jordan Birch, Jeff Bossa, Jamari Caldwell, and Derek Harmon. I don't know if it's because they have cool uniforms up in Eugene or what, but every one of these players I just loved watching. Oregon defensive tape was awesome this year. I'm so excited to see what Lanning can put out next year. But I just wanted to give those four guys a shout. That it's like, I think those guys, one of those guys is going to go underdrafted, because I have them all as top 100 players. So I cannot get enough of all four players, and I think they're going to be tremendous value where they are picked.
Yeah, there you go. All of Oregon's front seven there. So, and then moving on to kind of the big part of the episode here for the people that are watching the podcast as a full, or people that are watching live, is our first and only 2-round mock draft. We've thrown out a couple different mock drafts for you guys over the last couple weeks, and expect one more mock draft before the draft, and that'll get uploaded to you guys for our non-live listeners. The day of the draft, we'll turn around and get that put out. Expect Ryan to be back. Again, there's a chance that he might not be, but expect Ryan to be back for that podcast. And then we can kind of jump into the 2-round mock draft here. And, people are screaming about different positions we didn't take for a player. Now this gives us a little bit more of a plan for teams here. So if the position you want doesn't get taken in the first round, maybe it'll get taken in the second round here. So we can go ahead and we can get started here.
All right, 2 rounds. How do you want to do it today? Do you want to do just alternating, or with 2 rounds, do you take AFC, I take NFC, things like that, or I think we could just alternate, honestly.
Yeah. I think just alternating between picks is probably the best.
All right.
Oh, gosh. Golly gee. Yeah. I wonder who I'm taking here. Yeah, Cam Ward. Stop it. For those who aren't following the whole Cam Ward saga very closely, he was on live stream last night. So Tuesday night. So last night in terms of time we're recording this, and people were asking like, "Oh, who's your top 4 running backs?" And he was like, "Well, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Derrick Henry, and like Christian McCaffrey." And then he was like, "Yeah, AJ Brown is good, but he's no Calvin Ridley." He had Treylon Burks in his top 4 wide receivers, which is just like awful. Treylon Burks is like a generational.
But the way he teed that up was amazing. He goes, yeah, Calvin Ridley's in the top 4 of receivers. And then he's like, Jamar, Justin Jefferson, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I got my 4th, Treylon Burks. And he knows what he's doing. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, he knows he's getting drafted. It's great.
There was another one where it was like they asked him to name his top 5 coaches. I know we're going long on this, but like he went Callahan, Stefanski, Dayball. He skipped the Patriots and Vrabel for specific reasons, and the Jaguars, and then went into Pete Carroll and Aaron Glenn with the Jets. So I thought that was hilarious. So any team with a possible need at the top of the draft at quarterback, he named as his top coaches. But yeah. This one's easy. I think Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter continues to be the lean here. Again, I don't think you can go wrong with him or Carter. I think those are the 2 best players in the draft, with Mason Graham just behind them on my board. But Travis is a dynamic weapon that I likely don't believe they're going to play at corner. They're going to play at receiver. They need a weapon. You pair him with Judy and whatever quarterback you can get at 33. Or move into the first round, but Travis seems like the normal pick. And it truly makes me believe that if they're pivoting from Carter to Travis, this is a team that if we get into like 16, I want to see them go up and get Shador if he's there. If you're taking Travis, there's a reason you're taking him over Carter, and I want to see it.
Hey, maybe we can see if we can get that to happen today. We'll see. A little bit more ammo to play around with today. And I know where I'm going with this pick, but let's set the precedent before we get to the 4th pick, because I think starting there is where it could maybe get a little funky. We want to do what we would do or predictive mock here.
I think I'm gonna. I always, whenever I do mocks, I kind of I trickle back and forth. I'll be honest.
Okay. The reason I ask is because of the tackles, and if you guys are watching just the mock video, there's a tackle here that might go a little bit higher than you're expecting. But for me, again, this one's a little bit easy for the Giants. It's Abdul Carter. Sure, you have Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, but those guys don't prevent you from taking Abdul Carter, and you can even move off of Thibodeau at this point. So,
yeah, it seems like they're doing a last second full court heave. I think it's John Mara going, finally setting himself in the room, saying I need to see Shador. So there's a I don't know if it's happened. It's probably happened by the now of the YouTube video releasing, but they're gonna work out Shador. There's a chance he goes at 3. I doubt it's going to happen. I think they need to take the best player available, and Abdul Carter is absolutely that. Then you get into the Patriots. I think the Patriots are interesting because this is where the draft really starts. This kind of sets my what you just asked, that question of like, is this a predictive or what I would do? I think I'm going to go with what I would do, and that's take Mason Graham. I know they just signed Milton Williams. I know that they have Christian Barmore. It's interesting with the Barmore and his blood clots. I don't if you feel, patient enough with Barmore that you can wait on him and believe he's going to bounce back, then it's probably Campbell. Because Teteroa does not seem like he's in position to be drafted here. But if you believe there's any hesitancy and you want to get a tone setter pick, because you got to keep in mind this is Mike Vrabel's first Patriots pick. You want to get a tone setter, and I think Mason Graham is absolutely that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's who I would have picked at 5. That's why you saw a little bit of that reaction from me when you made that pick. It's a little bit more difficult. If it was a strictly what I would do mock draft, it would be Aston GT here without a second question. But it's not. It's a combination of both. I'm gonna go Tyler Warren. Actually, no. Pause. Conversation that we had last night, or a couple nights ago. Do they trust Walker a little? Do they? Because if they don't trust Walker a little, they don't have tackles that they like here. And I'm taking my top tackle. That's Will Campbell, regardless of his arm length and whatnot. The half inch isn't going to make a difference. Sure, it could play a little bit of an impact, but even if you don't trust the arm length measurement he had at his pro day, for me, I still think, and I've said it the entire time, he is a tackle. He can do it. A half inch is not going to prevent him from being a great tackle to a bad tackle. It's Will Campbell. And if you don't trust Walker a little, this just makes a whole lot of sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, before doing this exercise, you go through some of now that free agency has kind of simmered over, you kind of know what rosters look like going into the draft, and that was a team that catches my eye with their tackle situation. That this is a new regime. Walker Little is nobody's safe there. They took Anton Harrison a few years ago. You're at that point where it's kind of decision time with him. It's either he's going to make the year 3 leap or not. You can't really pencil him in for starter, but no, I think it'd be fascinating if they took Campbell, because he's probably outside of, I would have Genty and T-Mac over him, but Will Campbell's my 6th overall player, so if you want a lineman, I can't judge you on that pick. The Raiders, this is the worst kept secret at this point, I think. I think it's Genty, because I think in this draft specifically, I think there's 3 dynamic playmakers on offense, and even with T-Mac at 5, I don't believe he's one of those dynamic playmakers. I think it's Hunter, who's already been taken. I think it's Loveland, not a position of need, and I think it's Genty. And you trade for Geno, you get the contract, you take on an older coach, much older coach in Pete Carroll. You want to go this route. You want to be good. And I think Genty's one of those running backs that changes your run game. I think Bijan had that. I think Saquon has that. No matter if you believe the offensive line isn't that great, but even their offensive line, like their run blocking stuff was pretty good. It's just Zam White and Sincere McCormick were the guys running the ball for them. So you drop Genty in here, I think he's a special player.
Absolutely. And who's one of the first players that you think of when you think of Pete Carroll?
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch. He loves his running backs. Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, one of the worst kept secrets. And to be frank,
Ben, here's another little tidbit. They made one move at running back this year. What's the biggest knock on Genty? His long speed. They signed Raheem Mostert.
There you go. Like you said, one of the worst kept secrets in all of the draft, and maybe it's just a very well placed smokescreen, but I doubt it at this point. 8 is well for you, but we'll see what happens at 8 and where we go with 8. Gosh, I don't think it's a quarterback here. I really don't for the Jets.
No.
For me at this point, it is between Membu or Tyler Warren.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm leaning Tyler Warren here. And that's kind of the pick I'm going. They have a position of need at tight end. Tyler Warren is just that guy. I think they can find a tackle a little bit later, in the second round, and we'll get to it. Tyler Warren.
I think this is where I mix in like reality with what I would do, and like this pick is gonna be Jalen Walker. I think at this point we all have to kind of accept it with reporting and seeing so many, like when you see one reporter say it, okay. When you see like 5 of them say, yeah, Jalen Walker's floor is the Panthers this draft, and I get it. Like maybe I've not come around to him. I have him as my 19th overall player. I haven't come around to the top 10 stuff, but I get it. You want a freaky run and hit athlete comparative to Frankie Louvu. I wouldn't take Frankie Louvu in the top 10. That's another part of why I'm doing this. But he's much more, versatile. It's just the tweener player gives me, hesitancy because I feel like we all have that tweener player that we all got burned on back in the day, and it just didn't work out. And Walker feels like the next guy. But from what I've read, tremendous leader, tremendous Energizer Bunny that the Panthers would want in their defense. So I completely get it.
Yeah, again, an awful kept secret here. At 9. Guys, I'm really debating about how much I want to make Matt kind of squeam a little here. Because it is going to be, I'm taking a quarterback here.
Mm-hmm.
It is between Shedeur and Jackson Dart, right? And Jackson Dart has been a name that has been picking up steam, especially to the Saints, as of recent, 2-ish weeks. Matt would absolutely hate it. I think that's like the only pick in the entire draft that the Saints could make them. Matt would be like, I'm out. Go away. I'm not watching this team for a year. But I do have Shedeur as ranked in front of him. I have a quarterback in front of Shedeur, but that won't happen. But because I do have Shedeur in front of Jackson Dart, I will go Shedeur here. But I could have been mean and done Jackson Dart, and I think I could realistically see that happening as well.
Yeah, I've told you in private. There's only one pick that, especially with this board, I love T-Mac, I love Nolan, Jahad Campbell, Membu. If you want to do trench play, I completely get it, and even Shedeur. Jackson Dart is the one player that if he's picked at 9, I will be inconsolable.
Second here, guys.
I'll be done for. But we get to 10 with the Bears.
Hold on. Ryan, you're live here. You're here. I'll let you know.
Whoa! Live on the Pigskin Project? No way!
So combination of what we would do, not to hijack your pick, but at this position at 10, what are you thinking with the Bears, Ryan?
All right, so I'm trying to watch the stream right now. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, wait. I can look and see the board, kind of.
Podcasting.
Can you tell me who was picked 1 through 7? Can you do that for me?
I can give you 1 through 9 because we are on the Bears pick right now.
I can see it's Jalen Walker and Shedeur Sanders. So sorry, Matt, but fun ride. Anyways, yeah, I need 1 through 7. I just can't see that.
1 through 7: Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Ashton Jeanty, Tyler Warren.
Well, that's not fun. That's like all my guys. Okay. Well,
I know where I would go, and Ryan would hate it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give me Membu. Give me Membu at 10. That's an easy pick. Give me my left tackle. We're going to compete with Braxton Jones in year 1 and likely let go of Braxton Jones in the future. And, surprise, guest pick, Nobody was expecting this.
Surprise! No one was expecting that. Thank you, Ryan. I will
Give
let
me a
you.
call when the Bears are up in the second round. I got you.
All right, I'll see you, buddy.
Bear down.
All right, Matt. So at pick 10, not to hijack that pick. For those who are recent watchers, that is Ryan, that third name that you guys might have heard at the top of the podcast. That's our other co-host there. Who would have been your pick at 10?
Probably Nolan or Loveland. I think they're at a point that I think Membu is my 15th overall player. I think you're reaching a little bit, but again, it's tackle, and I think like specifically looking at the tackles, I think Simmons, Connerly, and then like I think Banks is a guard. I think Zable's a guard. I think Donovan Jackson's kind of a swing, kind of more leaning guard. So if you want to get a tackle, I completely understand getting him at 10. You need to get him early, but I think the Bears are in a spot where they could really push the envelope, and I think Nolan or Loveland down here really pushes that envelope in a big way. And I think I'm gonna take the Niners now, because I think we did this last week. Walter Nolan, man.
Yes.
Walter Nolan's gonna go here. I think this is the perfect spot for him, penetrating 3-tech. You put him in there with Robert Saleh and just figure it out. You'll get more depth down the line. Like the Niners, surprisingly this year, I'm not gonna trade anybody, but you go to the Niners, the capital that they have in draft ammunition this year, 4 difference-making picks, the top 3 rounds, they could really build out this defensive line immediately, and getting a true blue chipper in Nolan at 11, I think is a really good, maybe not blue chipper, but I think he's well worth a top 11 pick.
No, absolutely. I would be shocked if they don't go here, especially with their, I guess, lack thereof depth at or even starters at that position along pretty much the whole defensive line. I don't think this is a pick that we have made at all on this podcast because he has not been here at this point.
Yeah, I think this is easy.
It's Tedero McMillan.
Yep.
And if Jerry Jones isn't sprinting that card in, even at his old age, he's quite frankly just wrong. And I hate to say it because, again, there are a lot of very smart people out there, but if they do not take Tedero McMillan at 12 and he is there, you're wrong. Again, I know it's an objective thing, but you're just wrong. So
yeah. No, I completely agree because, again, his skill set with CeeDee Lamb matches perfectly, man. CeeDee is a pretty, intermediate to middle of the field slot receiver at this point in his career, and that's where he makes his money, being a yak receiver. You put Ted on the outside and win against some of those big physical corners. I think he's tremendous at that. We get to 13. Again, like, this is another easy one. I did last week, but Simmons is too good here. I just mentioned him in the My Guys. He's my 8th overall player. He's one of the best tackles. I think he has the potential to be the best tackle. Limited play time. The injury stuff is a problem, but they signed Teron Armstead, so I don't think they have an issue with taking on injury-riddled left tackles. But I think this is a must.
Yes,
especially looking at the board. I think after, like I said, after you get past Simmons, man, there's going to be a guy I push up the board that is not high on my big board just because tackles are going to go.
And speaking of that, it seems like Ursary has been that guy as of recently that's been catching that
was
steam.
The name I was alluding to. Like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Another guy that we had talked about on the My Guys here, and we had talked about this being the floor spot for him.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a position of need. Colston Loveland. Again, they have not been able to figure out this tight end position for what seems to be like years now at this point. And me and you both have Colston Loveland as a close to top 10-ish player in this class.
Yep, I think it's pretty crazy looking at this team, and like I think this team, losing Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, they need some interior support. So I would have, like, if you take Zabel here. It's a little early, but it would make a ton of sense. But like, you go to that tight end room, man. Woof. There's a reason that tight end is a number one need for this team, because it is slim pickings, and I think they need to win, right? I think Chris Ballard and Steichen are really on the block here. They got to win games, and so how do you win games? You make sure your quarterback's good, so you keep giving them weapons to throw to. So Loveland makes a ton of sense. Here, this one I don't think we've done too many times, but instead of really pushing the envelope with the edge or interior guys, I'm going to take Will Johnson. I think you put Will Johnson on the outside, the opposite side of A.J. Terrell. I think it gives you two really just lengthy and intelligent man cover corners for them right off the bat, and it's an easy pick here.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep stealing these guys one pick away from the pick that I would have wanted to make them at. You get into, well, they really need edge or whatnot, but is Will Johnson a better player in terms of tier-wise on your board than whatever edge you have at this place?
I have, him and Stewart are pretty much equal.
Yeah. So, and so many people are out on Stewart because of the production and lack thereof.
Yep.
So, yeah. That being said, that is who I'm going to be going with this Cardinals pick is Shamar Stewart, a guy that me and you both absolutely love. Again, they need help on that defensive line. And I think Gannon is one of those guys that can get the most out of his defensive line. We saw it with the Eagles. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Cincinnati, you're bummed. You're just bummed. This one becomes interesting. I think they need an edge rusher. Outside of Trey Hendrickson, this team could not produce in rushing the passer, and there's a world where that guy's not on the football team in training camp. So maybe he's moved during the draft. Maybe, who knows? But I think this is a team that needs to get an edge rusher. So, I mean, you just take the next best edge rusher. I have Mike Green at 16th overall player, Stewart at 10. So a little bit of a drop off, but still a player worth the pick at 17.
Yes, an elite pass rusher at that. Yep. If his background checks out.
Yep.
So absolutely love it. If this is the way that the board have fallen, and we will see how it is next week. There's a team at 32 that would be calling. But that's besides the point. We'll save that for next week to see if that is what happens. For me, it is between two players. It is between a Gray Zabel and a Donovan Ezeraku. Okay. Because it is a mix of what I would do thrown in there, I am going to go Gray Zabel here. It did hurt me to pass up on Donovan Ezeraku a little bit, but I think there is such a need at the interior for this team that Gray Zabel should be going here. And it's just a matter of if Snyder is willing to say not a valuable position, but we should still take it.
Yeah, this makes it fascinating with Seattle because I'll be honest, I disagree with you. I've done this scenario before, and with the guys on the board, I lean Starks because I think with like bringing up Seattle here as I did with the Niners, you look at all 50, 52, 82, and 92, I think there's a world where they have the ammunition to find interior play along the lines that you're not going to get a player as good as Starks later in this draft. So I kind of lean Starks, and you kind of put him in nickel or you put him in overhang safety. I think likely overhang safety because Devon Witherspoon is a fantastic nickel. But no, I would get it with Zabel. I think Zabel is a phenomenal player, and I have him ranked at 18th, and he goes 18th. So sometimes you love it when a plan goes together. But the Bucks, like it's Jahad Campbell, right? I think there's an intrigue in taking Starks here for me because I think he's just undervalued. But you have to take Campbell. I even have Campbell ranked higher than Starks, so I know it's boring. I know I hate making the just, blanket picks because we just know Jahad Campbell's going to be here and he's not going to be taken by the Bucs, but it makes a ton of sense. Would love to see it happen.
Yes, well, and that's where I think his floor is, and that's kind of the player that I alluded to at 32. I don't think if he makes it to 19, he will be getting past that pick.
All right, Ben. I want to see if you make the pick because I'm not.
I'm wondering where your head is at here, because my head is at wide receiver. It's a player that me and you have heavily talked about. I don't quite understand why people have him falling out of the first round. He's clearly wide receiver 2, and the reason I say that is because of Travis Hunter and whatnot. But in terms of pure wide receivers, he is clearly, for me, wide receiver 2 at this position, and I don't get why he's falling down the board, and I think he is a perfect complement to what they already have there in Courtland Sutton.
I agree with you. I thought you were going to go a different way on the offensive side of the ball, I'll be honest. But yeah. No, I think it makes a ton of sense. The Steelers. So I'm under the impression Aaron Rodgers is going to be signed, but because I took a peek today, they have 6 projected compensatory picks. So if they wait a certain, I think it's middle of May, maybe it's post June 1st, I can't remember, but if they wait a certain amount of time to sign Aaron Rodgers, they will still have 6 compensatory picks up next year, or for the possibility. I don't know if you can get up to 6. Maybe you max out at 4. But they have the opportunity to get those. If they sign Rodgers, they're going to lose one of those. So under this impression, I think they have Rodgers. I think that's the most important piece of this. Again, leaning to the board. Am I going in... Do I want to go in the secondary with, probably Starks here, just looking at the board, maybe Revel? I think we've done that. Or do I want to go on the defensive line? And I think it's easily defensive line, because I think there is a drop off after these 5. And you look at the Steelers, their next pick is 83rd. So I think you need to get an interior guy right away. I think there's going to be corners you can get later. So I go with my next best player. Before
you hit that select button, is there, and it could obviously be no, and I'd totally be fine with that as well. Is there a tackle here that you think would also be worth taking? Just out of curiosity.
Oh yeah, I think Connerly is definitely worth the price of admission. Personally, those guys just don't stay. Those guys don't stay on the board. But I'm under the impression Rodgers is the quarterback. He's not throwing out a rookie left tackle. He's not throwing out a... If you want to go Connerly, I get it, because you're kind of sticking him behind Broderick Jones. But I think I'm under the impression this team's really going to go for it. And so if you get Harmon in there, you move Keanu Benton over to nose. You already have Cam Hayward, Highsmith, and TJ Watt. So just add more pass rush juice.
Yes.
But no, we've had talks about that tackle. I think it makes a ton of sense if you want to do an Olu Fashiono with a Rodgers team last year where you just sit him and he's a year 2 project.
Yeah. The best player on the board, I cannot even take, because they already have an elite safety. I mean, unless you want to be like, we're just going to make the best safety pairing you've ever seen in your entire gosh darn life. But I don't think that's the case. It's a pick I've made. They lost Poona Ford, linking the Michigan guys to Jim Harbaugh. For me, it's Kenny Grant. There's a need, and you're just creating the link.
Yep. I think these IDL guys can come off the board in a hurry, just because we talked about this on the defensive line. I think after Tyleik Williams in the top 4, I think it really runs dry, just like the tackles. That I think there's going to be teams, especially with the way the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Just specifically that reason of being trench play and trench oriented, teams are really going to follow suit. Then we get to the Packers. I believe this is corner all the way. I I just want to rant for a minute. I don't get the Matthew Golden here. I don't think Matthew Golden does anything different than what Jaden Reed can provide. Personally, maybe he provides outside value, but that's just my opinion. I don't get the Matthew Golden to this pick. I'm gonna go with my top corner, Savone Revel. He's played limited snaps. He has the injury history. I get it, but the star possibility of him is so immense for me that I want to take him at 23. I don't think Jair is going to be on this team. I think this is just a matter of time with him. So taking Revel.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. No, at this point, again, the Eagles better be calling here and try to get up and take him, but we're not going to do that today. But the Vikings will be taking the player that I would want the Eagles to trade up for at this point. Just by far and away, there is a gap between the best player on the board and the next player after that. And that's Malachi Starks. Harrison Smith is getting old. He could retire anytime now. And again, Malachi Starks is just, again, by far such the best player on the board. You would be dumb to pass up on him.
Yep. Completely agree. Texans, I don't want to make this too long. You sprint in Josh Connerly here. I know they have interest in Kelvin Banks, and I think with their board it would probably be Banks, but I think Connerly is I think Connerly's much better, and I think he can play tackle where I don't think Banks can.
Yes. Oh, yeah. All right, this is where the obvious picks start becoming a little less obvious. Because not a tight end I really want to take here.
Yeah.
Do you think Calvin Banks can play tackle? If you think Calvin Banks can play tackle, then I think that's the spot for him. Gosh, yeah, I think that's the route I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go Calvin Banks. I know they just paid their guy, but Harvestein's getting old, and I'll do it. And if he needs to kick in it and play guard for a little bit and develop at guard, you can do that too.
I hear you. I think this one is, my top overall player ends up being an edge if I'm not missing anybody. I think this is James Pierce here. I don't know. The James Pierce draft range is so crazy because it's all about the behind-the-scenes stuff that you and I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if the top 30 visits have been immense for him. Usually top 30 visits are guys you're trying to figure out character. But there's been some recent talks where some teams don't do top 30 visits, like the Rams specifically, or some teams invite players they don't like for a reason to, get them in the building and see why they don't like him. But here, James Pierce is pretty easy. I still think he's a top 32 player. He's a top 20 player on my board. It's all about the behind-the-scenes stuff, and you figure it out.
Yeah. Yes, the pure talent there, he should not be here at 27.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, a matter of doing your correct diligence on him. The Ravens already have established culture, leaders within that locker room that can kind of prevent a little bit of that off the field stuff happening. I wonder who I'm picking here for the Lions. Donovan Ezraku. Again, I've said it. I think I've made this pick plenty of times at this point. They need help against Aiden. I'm much higher on Ezraku than pick 28. Easy for me.
Yeah, you put me in an awkward spot with the Commanders because, with how many draft picks they flooded last year and the free agents, I don't know what is classified as a need for them right now. So I want to just shift to premium positions. So I'm gonna find the G and take Mykel Williams because he's the best player at a premium position on the board here for me. Again, don't love it, but then again, I can't pin down how they're going to attack because they trade for Tunsil. I'm they have such limited draft capital looking at them. They go from 61 to the Houston pick in a swap, and then 200 picks. So they really need to make this pick count, and I look at their needs, and I'm like, there's nothing that I'm, like, glaring need for me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, especially with the guys on the board there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the best player on the board is Barron, and they are clearly not going to take Barron coming off of the year that Mikey Sanders just had.
Yeah.
I think this is a pick that we've hinted at making, but I don't think we've ever actually made it. And if you guys listen back to the D-tackle rankings that we had, there is a clear cutoff between where we have our top 5 defensive tackles and then everyone else. And I don't think you can get this type of player when you come around back to the second round, and that's Tyleik Williams. Again, they need to put someone that can handle the run, that can really handle the run in the interior of that defense, and Tyleik Williams does that perfectly.
Yeah, some people are just going to be turned off by taking a nose tackle at 30, but, like, again, your point is excellent, man. I have him as my 34th player. The next interior defensive lineman I have on my board is Alfred Collins in the low 50s. So I truly believe there is a massive, massive drop-off after Tyleik Williams that if you don't get him at 30, I don't think Buffalo is going to get a true impact starter that they would want. I think they could, and like the safeties are interesting. If you like Eamon Warray, I get it, but then again, I'm definitely not going to be the person making that pick. Then we get into the Chiefs. The Chiefs are fascinating. I think this is Donovan Jackson because of the flexibility, the inside-outside versatility, and I think the worst-kept secret. I've probably said that a few times, but another worst-kept secret is this team wants to get more beef on the interior. They move on from Tooney. They re-up Trey Smith. The left side is very dormant. You just keep plugging guys into there. I think they're just trying to throw shots at this. They signed Jalen Moore from San Francisco. They now take Donovan Jackson. I'm missing someone. Who do they take? Kingsley Suamataia, not good enough last year. Maybe they kick him inside to guard. But this is just, again, this is a team going on a Super Bowl run. Just keep throwing stuff at the problem and see if it fixes.
Yeah.
What do you do with your Eagles?
With the way the board is at, honestly, the first phone call I'm making is the Bears.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, Ben Johnson, I'll move back to 39.
I'm not high enough on this player in the first round, but there's no shot Hampton's here. I believe that.
Yeah. I think the first thing I would do would call it Ben Johnson and say, hey, do you want Amari Hampton? This is, I think, the last spot that you can confidently secure him before teams do start trading up for him. I don't think he's here at 32. And that's why it's really difficult. That's just, again, the way that the board had fallen. And a lot of people look at this and say, there's no shot he's making it all the way to that pick. And now if Ryan was here, I'd say, hey, Ryan, do you want to trade up, from 39? Jeez. There's one player that stands out to me in terms of the Eagles board. That's Nick Scordon. And it just comes back to what Howie likes to do when it comes to building through the trenches. I think that's the selection I'm going to make.
I like it. All right. Beginning of round 2, we don't usually get to this point. So let's keep it going. Refresher, the Browns, of course, took Travis Hunter.
Oh, Ryan just texted me. He said, trade up.
I hate this. I hate this selection, but I think this is very obviously Dart if he makes it to 33. I would not make the pick, but then again, I am not in the position of Cleveland that they have to, make this decision. This is the card they're dealt. Their $50 million, whatever his cap hit is. He's not good enough. They've band-aided it with Flacco. They've traded for Pickett. you need to get a young star in there, and it's really which one would you prefer? And I think I would prefer Milrow, but just the buzz, I can't deny the buzz of Dart going here. I really can't.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I can't deny it. And now it's interesting with New York.
Yeah, because that's who I would
that quarterback tab again.
I would have taken here. Because Milrow does need to go to a situation in which he's not playing right now, right? And they have Russ, they have Jameis. He does not have to play right away. But Barron is still here. And Jahdae Barron should not be here. Jahdae Barron should not be on the board. It's going to be Jahdae Barron because of the value in which the players that are still here.
Yeah, I mean, even if he's a Texas guy, we do differ on the player. But I get it. I would probably take I would probably take Milrow there. I'll be honest with you. Even if I don't love taking a quarterback.
And I love Milrow.
Yeah. No, I think you're just weighing value. And then Tennessee is so easy. This team has the 35th pick, the first pick, of course Cam Ward, and then one pick until the 100s. This is a receiver for me. And you get your pick of the litter. Do you want Igbuka or do you want Golden? And it's just decisions. I'm going to go with my higher ranked player, and that's Igbuka. I think he just does he's just a professional player. And I think he does a lot of things well that are going to mesh with a rookie quarterback. Even if he's always a rookie, he finds zone spots really well. He gets to his spots urgently. Just phenomenal player.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I'm going to give Ryan about 30 seconds to come in here and make a case for the Bears to trade up. Because if he doesn't get in here in about 30 seconds, the pick will be Amari and Hampton. Just point blank period. I love Amari and Hampton here. I don't like what they have with there he is. Don't like what they have with Trevor or Travis Etienne.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, I'm the Jaguars on the board here. I want to take Hampton.
Well,
are the Bears trading up?
Yeah, I'm absolutely trading up. What am I?
Oh, well, that's all we needed to get was we're trading up. Right. So go ahead and you're moving what, 3 spots? I don't think it's gonna cost that much.
I mean, it would have to cost 148.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think Ben Johnson, if he's the one making those decisions there, yeah, go ahead and swap those picks.
Yeah.
Amari and Hampton.
Yeah, I mean, we differ on the player. It just is what it is. I'm probably, if you're watching this video, I'm probably the lowest you're going to find of this, of the draft cycle on Amari and Hampton. But, no, it makes a ton of sense. He's not going to be here at 36. The way, with what you read, I feel like 20 is the spot he's going to go. But even then, him sliding 16 picks later is interesting. It's just, I wasn't going to be the one to pull the trigger. And and then we get to the Raiders. This might be golden. This might be pretty easy to just take BPA, and it's another impact position on the offensive end. Just continue to flood Geno Smith with opportunistic weapons. I look at the board. I'm gonna go Booker. I think you can keep penciling. What are they doing with JPJ? Are they still playing JPJ at guard? It's interesting. This is where it gets fascinating in the second round. You have to make sacrifices like this.
JPJ's their center.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say that JPJ played guard last year for them.
No, because he fumbled up that snap on Christmas.
Okay. Why do you think he was drafted as a guard? No, yeah, I'm going to just take Booker, going BPA on my board. That's, the the only guy above him is Caleb Johnson, and of course they're not going to take 2 running backs. So yeah, I'm going to go Booker.
No.
But in the corner. It's done. It's done.
That's done. Well, this is easy. I mean, if you tell Patriots fans that they leave the top 38 with Will Campbell and Matthew Golden, I think they're in the bars high-fiving each other. You get your tackle of the future and the pass catcher that helps Drake May. Very, very easily Matt Golden.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm catching up just now. I apologize.
Jacksonville. We went Campbell early.
Can I ask what was the trade that was made for my Bears for Hampton?
Just a 5th and a 7th swap.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Matt, would you mind if I make the Jags pick and I'll trade you my Saints pick so you can pick for the Saints?
I guess, yeah.
That way you get a chance to pick for your team. It only makes sense that way. All right. Who did we take again for them in the first round? Will Campbell for the Jags.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. We didn't take Will Campbell for the Giants. Or for the Patriots. I thought for sure we did. All right. Will Campbell. This is tough.
Is there a position?
The position that like my head goes to would have been would have been wide receiver.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. The need. What does the edge group look like? I'm just curious because I don't know if they take if they do trade
guys gone.
Yeah. This is difficult. Yeah, if you want to flip back to all positions here. Jeez, Jiminy
I'm gonna
Crickets.
pull up our lads right now. I'll get you a feel.
Please. Yeah, get me a feel here. Cause where's my head is corner.
So yeah, they signed Deemy Brown. They signed Hainsey and Patrick McCary to play center and right guard. A lot, little marginal moves. Defensive side of the ball, they signed Jordan Lewis, of course, to play nickel. Tyson Campbell's already there. They signed Eric Murray to play safety. Darnell Savage is there. So they lost Andre Cisco. So it's not really like I could see safety being in play. But again, I'm not being the one to pull the trigger on Eamon Worry.
I am the one that pulls the trigger on Eamon Worry. Okay. I forgot that he was still even available.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think safety is a good pick to make there.
Yeah.
So
I forgot he was even still on the board.
The Saints. So I took Shador, or you took Shador. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
This is a team that can take anything. Truly, defaulting to the board. Like I immediately look at interior defensive linemen because I just want more beef on this team. I think you take Caleb Johnson here. Why not? I'm not going to. I'll pair it with no. They have outside corners. It's probably not the position of need. Let's just continue to beef up the receiver room. Let's take Jaden Higgins, another just explosive play threat. You give Shador a real fighting chance with Higgins, Shaheed, Olave. Just continue to put more bodies in that room, and then we get to the Bears.
All right. Ben, I'm going to go a completely different route, despite the fact that I texted you what I thought my pick was going to be. Because I remembered that there's a guy on the board that I'm obsessed with. Matt knows who I'm talking about. Ben, you should know who I'm talking about if you were reading the group chat. We're talking Watts, Xavier Watts. Now, my thought process with this is that I was going to go Amos. I'm in love with Amos. However, when Hampton falls into the second round, you have to use that second round pick on Hampton and trade up just a little bit. So I'm going more of a position of need. Now, I know people are going to be like, "Oh, but Stevenson's trash." Well, so is a safety that plays 5 games in like his third year of the league. He's never played a full season in his career, so I'm willing to move on from Brisker if that's what it takes. Maybe recoup some of those draft picks that we traded for Hampton, basically. But or you just keep him on the bench and kind of hope that he stays healthy and you've got a beast there. But nonetheless, I'm taking Watts, and that's the move that I'm making.
I love it.
Peace out until next week. Totally just ruined that for you, but that's happening. So